Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the 6th-round post-fight show with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host, as always, Eddie Mercado. We are here. Welcome back, first of all, Eddie, because you were off in Abu Dhabi living the high life.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back. Yeah, I went out to Dubai and did the whole tourist thing for a little bit before UFC 242, and then went and did a little coverage for Mania and got a couple of interviews in, and then actually went to the fights as a fan. So that was just incredible. Just being a fan is so much fun. Like we forget, covering the sport, it's, I don't want to say it's taxing because we love this, but being able to just go full on fan mode is really refreshing.
I feel you.
It was great. It was absolutely great.
Well, now we're back as professionals in the grind, as it were, and we're talking about this week's UFC card in Vancouver, British Columbia, where Justin Gaethje defeated Donald Cerrone via TKO in the first round, 4 minutes into the first round, to once again solidify his spot as one of the division's top contenders. Although, to hear it in the post-fight speech, even he doesn't believe that he should be cutting Tony Ferguson in line.
Yeah, I mean, he's a class act, man. He'll say what's on his mind, and he might say some things that you wouldn't want your children listening to necessarily, but
they bleep those.
And everybody knows that Ferguson is deserving. Everybody knows that Khabib and Ferguson is the fight to make. Mm-hmm. If anyone gives any kind of care to the actual sporting element of MMA, which Gaethje does, Ferguson, Khabib is the fight to make.
Yeah, and I like, too, what Gaethje said. Gaethje took the smart route with the non-call-out of Conor McGregor, which is just, he's retired. I want to fight somebody who actually fights. That is both the best way to ensure that you create a little talk and to not look like you're just the next guy begging for a Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah, I mean, I respected Dustin Poirier for saying the same thing. Yeah. I asked him if he won, if he beat Khabib, would he take Tony Ferguson or would he take the money fighting Conor McGregor? And, it was a tough question for him to answer, but he ultimately said to respect the sport, he would go with Tony Ferguson. And I love that.
Well, too, and for a lot of these fighters, a lot of their contracts are locked in. So we've seen what's happening over and over with Colby Covington trying to negotiate his share of a title fight. And it keeps meaning that the UFC just scraps the title fight for a fight with Conor McGregor or something like that. Well, I guess if you're champion, then he's got pay-per-view points coming to him, so that would be the big thing. But for a lot of other fighters, they might fight Conor McGregor, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get a big piece of that pie.
I mean, I think most of them, the secret's out. Yeah. If it comes across the table, people are going to renegotiate. I think Eddie Alvarez was the last one who didn't.
Yeah. They're going to take the opportunity for a big money fight. And if he had been champ, he would have had the pay-per-view points coming to him anyway, so it probably wouldn't have mattered.
So the only thing that I just kind of missed out tonight was the backflip from Gaethje, because we had so many flips on this entire card that I was for sure that Gaethje was going to do a backflip when he won, and we didn't get that.
Aw. Yeah,
but other than that,
card. Weird card.
What a as expected performance from Gaethje. Come out with the pressure, throw the leg kicks, set up the overhands, and he did just that. And he tried to get the referee to stop the fight when Cowboy was visibly done, but he had to deal out a couple more devastating blows to his friend before the referee finally was like, "Okay, it's over."
And fair enough to Gaethje, too. He even, got in the ref's face about it for a minute, but afterward on the mic, he even said, it's not the ref's fault. I just don't want to punch the guy.
Yeah.
Because, the part of the party is like, the ref should step in. The ref should have stopped it and all that. And the other party's got to realize, if that's anybody else, Justin Gaethje doesn't hesitate about punching them in the head a couple more times.
Oh, yeah. They can be completely unconscious, and he's still going in for that.
Yeah.
That Hendo,
Exactly. So there are two sides to that coin. On the one side, Gaethje probably gave the referee to make a better decision than he did. On the other side, in the circumstances, he's also giving special treatment to his friend, and the ref is just not that interested.
I love that even more about Gaethje, though.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's like he's not just some savage out there, even though he is, but he can dial it back when he wants to. And that's
really
that's
fun
so
performance from him. Would love. Hopefully, the UFC makes this whole Khabib Ferguson fight happen, and then Gaethje gets the next big. He gets a title shot. He deserves a title shot. After that, otherwise, maybe they stick him in fighting Paul Felder.
Yeah, that's another thing. But Felder's talking about running it back with Barboza in a 5-rounder, which I'm totally cool with.
Sure.
How about Daniel Cormier hard selling that McGregor Gaethje bout? What was that about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the UFC's got, they want Conor back in the cage. Getting Conor back in the cage is a major point for the UFC. Getting one fight a year out of him, even. I'm sure that was a huge part of the selling point when ESPN went into the deal. It's like, oh, you're going to get at least one big mega fight a year. So they're trying to find an opponent, trying to find some heat that'll get Conor going again. But at the same time, I think, like I say, fighters like Gaethje are just starting to realize it's like there's no point in wasting my time trying to figure out what Conor McGregor is going to do, because that we haven't seen him in years now. Or we haven't seen him since last October, and before that we hadn't seen him for a year before that. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to try and
it's like
pin your hopes on him.
And McGregor's just seeming desperate, honestly.
Yeah.
Like anytime there's a main event, he's always tweeting something out. And he used to be clever. He used to be funny. And now he just comes off as desperate.
Well, that's also the difference between when you're like smoking people all the time. All your jokes are funnier when you're winning, Like,
nah, Henry Cejudo is not funny in the least bit.
Well, yeah, but imagine how much less funny he would be if he was losing. It would be even worse.
Or maybe it'd be even more funny. I don't know.
Now, maybe Cejudo is just the proof of the rule, the proof that breaks the rule.
He's the exception.
He's the exception that breaks the rule. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm super super proud of Justin Gaethje because he's still who he was in the World Series of Fighting. Still same style, same mentality. Like, this is a real special treat. He's like, he has that ferocity that I loved about Mike Tyson. Like that scary kind of just, what he's coming to do, but can you stop it? And those people just can't. They can't stand up to that kind of horsepower.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun to watch. And this is another great performance from him. It was like that point in a storm of like, this is the one calm point of sense in a whole card that just felt like weird nonsense for me.
Total nonsense. How many flips? Like 5 flips on the night?
Yeah, I mean, like, because we're going to talk about it in a minute, but you got like Glover Teixeira going, like having a hard grappling battle with Nikita Krylov. Not something I think many people saw coming. Todd Duffee, Jeff Hughes ends in a no contest off an eye poke. Weirdness. Pereira fighting like the worst fight possible.
Yeah.
Ever.
He's competing in a one-sided gymnastics contest.
And, a decent fight from Hall Carlos Jr., but not really the weight to sway. Then right before that, Mischa Cirkunov literally being on the verge of getting TKO'd and finding a Japanese necktie, a Peruvian necktie.
Yeah, that was cool though. Like it was like fun in like a freak show kind of way.
Very fun in a freak show kind of way. So let's talk about that Glover Teixeira fight, Nikita Krylov, and man, right from the get-go, like Teixeira even said after the fight, I bet a bottle of whiskey on myself to win by submission in round 1, and he looked like he absolutely was going to get it, dead to rights. And all credit to Nikita Krylov for fighting his way through every bad position all the way through. He made that fight really damn close.
Yeah, he did. his grappling showed up. Krylov's did. And nobody expected that, because the book on him is that, you sub him. That's what you do. You just stand and bang it out with him, take him down and choke him out.
This is the first decision, win or lose, of Nikita Krylov's career. That's
ridiculous. So that's what, 32 outings, and he finally reaches the end of a third round.
Yeah,
that's bananas. But so for me, Krylov did way better on the ground than I expected him to, and Teixeira did way better on the feet than I expected him to.
Yeah,
like he had Krylov running away at times, like legit turning his back and running away. What's his name?
Alexander Gustafsson.
He pulled a Gustafsson several times out there.
Yep. Yeah, for a dude who's been looking kind of fragile and shaky on the feet in recent fights, Teixeira really just kind of put his chin down and came to bang it out with Krylov when they got in the pocket and pretty much got the better of most of the standing exchanges.
Yeah, so the fight definitely was the opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And in like every single way possible, from the way they fought to where their strengths in the fight were to the outcome of the fight. It just didn't, it made no sense.
Yeah, very, very weird fight. Good win for Teixeira. I don't know where it really, gets him. He's talking about wanting to fight down in Brazil, I believe, after that.
Yeah, Sao Paulo. Yeah. But didn't have anyone in particular that he wanted to fight.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it could mean maybe he ends up fighting somebody like Alexander Rakic or something, somebody who's just the next up and comer on a win streak, looking to make a name off of him. Because a lot of the notable fighters in that division are booked.
What's Shogun doing?
I don't know what Shogun's doing. Shogun Glover seems like a fight that has made various forms of sense for years and years and years and just never happened. There were rumors that one of them was ducking the other one for a long time, which I think was mostly nonsense. And obviously Glover for a lot of years was not able to fight in the U.S. because he'd overstayed a visa early in his career, and it just never quite happened. I'd love to see it, but it just seems like one of those fights that has made sense to be booked for a decade and has just never even seemed to get close to being made. Like, I don't even think they've tried to book it and had one of them pull out or something.
But I'm totally fine with that. He can fight Cirkunov for all I care.
Again?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or did Gustafsson officially retire? Did we ever get word on that?
He officially retired, but now he's talking about unretiring.
I'm cool with that matchup.
Sure. There's still fights out there for old man Teixeira.
Yeah, and I have to pull for him from here on out. Just for pure age.
In solidarity as we too crawl closer to middle age.
Exactly.
You like to have that guiding light of, if this old man can do it, then the fact that my knees hurt in the mornings does not mean that I too cannot go out and potentially out-grapple Nikita Krylov in 15 minutes.
Or outstrike him.
I mean, I
can't even say that Glover out-grappled him. Because he kind of didn't.
Yeah, it's true. It was very 50-50 in the grappling. All right.
So, there's tons of rematches that I'm okay with if they happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, anything. There's really no limits to who Teixeira could fight or where he fight.
Yeah.
It's really anything. There's no...
That light heavyweight division, too, is kind of wild enough that it feels like there are a bunch of dudes who might only have 2 or 3 fights in the division, but might be able to knock Glover Teixeira out on the right night.
Yeah. Yep.
So... there are a lot of fights he could take. Below that, Todd Duffee, Jeff Hughes. Man, this was setting up to be such a perfect Todd Duffee loss or Todd Duffee win, where he just came out swanging from moment one, throwing those hooks from the shoulder like he was fighting Frank Mir all over again.
Yeah.
And Jeff Hughes was weathering the storm, got hurt really badly. And you're like, oh man, is Duffee going to put him away and just stomp him like he's done to everybody else he's beat? And then Hughes starts coming back like, oh, is Duffee going to fall to pieces and self-detonate? And then the eye poke. And first thing Duffee said to the ref is, I'm seeing double. And that can't be the first thing you say. I mean, if it's true, it's true, and they got to stop the fight. But if it's true, they got to stop the fight. You say it. It's got to be fight over.
Yeah, man. It was such a barn burner with such an anticlimactic ending. This is MMA blue balls, and I hate it.
You just know, though, there's a minute left in that first round, and if he'd made it out of that first round, the rest of that fight would have just been pure sweaty hugging.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope they just run it back.
They probably.
I want to see that first round, or I want to see that first 4 minutes all over again. Because it's a car wreck, you know? It's like you probably shouldn't sit there and stare at it, but you can't help yourself. And like, what else are they going to do with these guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was not the kind of performance that makes you think that either of them should be getting a step up. Just like, well, who are the other, 0-1, 1-0 fighters on the roster? I guess they can fight either Duffee or Hughes. So.
No, just run it back.
Just run it back.
I mean, it was just savagery. Not much game planning going on, just slugging, throwing meat at one another and seeing who has the better chin. I mean, Duffy's chin held up better than I thought it would. You know, we've seen him get snuffed out easily.
Yeah, I mean, but it's always, every fight of his is like this, though. It's either him just absolutely wailing on somebody and trading shots and surviving and landing the KO, or him wailing on somebody and trading shots, and then suddenly he doesn't survive, and that's it.
Like that Mike Russo fight.
Like that Mike Russo fight, yeah.
Whatever happened to Mike Russo?
He found out he made more money being a cop.
The benefits are better. Probably. Stipe's still, first responder.
Yeah.
Chris Lytle, same thing.
Yep. Nathan Coy left the UFC to go be a firefighter.
Yeah. What's going on? What's going on here? Can we get some insurance for these guys and their families? I mean, I know they have health insurance, but
yeah. Speaking of what's going on here, though, before that, catchweight bout, 172 pounds, and Tristan Connelly, Mischa Pereira, and just the dumbest fight I've seen in a long, long time.
This definitely belonged on one of the old Pride cards.
Yeah. I mean,
it was definitely my dude was out there doing gymnastics.
I will say this, though. Pereira was out there doing gymnastics. Connelly came to fight. No question. I still think it's really kind of absurd that Connelly won that fight. He could land 4 punches for every one shot Pereira landed, and Pereira's punches were still 5, 6, 7 times harder. I don't care. It's not a real contest at that point. Connelly absolutely won that third round. I'm happy he got the win. It was a huge moment. It was great for him.
Yeah.
But most of that fight looked like a man playing with a child and accidentally letting the child beat him up just because he was too drunk.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. If we want to be a little nicer to Connelly, we can at least say his performance shows the true value of fundamentals. And flashy is fun and all, but practicality is king. He survived the BS, leaned on his skills, and got a huge win. However, I'm still way more excited to see Pereira again than Connelly.
Yeah.
He just needs to take a page out of the Yoel Romero book and learn how to recharge.
Yeah. I mean,
and not do backflips.
Or just fight at middleweight, for God's sake. Like, what are you doing, man? You're 6'1". You are made out of solid muscle. You fought at light heavyweight before. There's no reason for you to be down here at 170 pounds.
Yeah, no, he should be fighting Paulo Costa.
Yeah.
Get into the meat club and fight other people who are freaks.
Weird dudes who do dumb stuff is the entire middleweight division. There is like a whole place just for that. Yeah. Welterweight is much more like, it's full of dudes who will fight like Tristan Connelly with a whole wealth of actual athletic talent to back them up.
He should be fighting guys like Bigfoot Silva.
Oh.
I only want to see him in freak show fights. I want to see him fight guys who are doing front flips.
I think it was Coppola on Twitter saying the UFC should cut Pereira right now so he can go fight Bob Sapp in Japan.
There you go. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah. His style of completely stupid carnival MMA is a little bit wasted on the UFC.
Are stomps to the midsection legal?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that probably technically they're not, but I don't think any ref would call them.
Yeah, you can't just like backflip on people and stomp on them. I don't think.
He did, but...
He definitely did.
Yeah, just a really, really dumb fight. All credit to Connelly. He went out there. He actually tried to win. The judges rewarded him for it. The crowd loved him for it. I can't imagine who he's going to fight next in the UFC because I can't imagine many other fighters who are going to just give him decisions that way.
No.
But
like he didn't do anything great out there other than survive the early BS.
Yeah.
That was his major asset, I would say.
Well, the UFC Connelly should actually just retire. Our producer just showed us who won the bonuses, and Connelly Pereira won fight of the night, and Pereira couldn't get a bonus because he missed weight, so Connelly got all $100,000. Just retire.
Yeah, it's only downhill from here.
Yeah, you walked away from this fight like $130,000 richer. Just call it quits.
5 days notice.
Yeah.
It's insane. And he deserves every $100,000 of that.
Yeah.
He deserves absolutely. For sure.
I got no problem with that. Him making bank. I got no problem with him getting the storybook win. I think it's a terrible miscarriage of dumb judging, but the only person I can blame for that is Pereira. Like he just didn't even try.
No, he tried to wow the crowd and be a spectacle.
Yeah.
And that's what he got.
Yep.
He wasn't out there being a fighter.
No.
And when like he was gassed and it was time to fight for real, like he did show some skills. Like he got the take. He's like, I'm gassed. He got the takedown. And that's another thing. Like Connelly's giving up these takedowns to this gassed Pereira.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good sign. No,
that's what I'm saying. Is that like the Connelly, this is like a great moment, but this is a dude who kind of like who had no fight footage on the internet at all, so that he couldn't, so that the UFC wouldn't really know what they were getting out of him. And then, like it's a great moment. I feel happy for the guy, but it's just kind of, it was a terrible fight. And to see people even like, I don't know, the reaction to it was really weird because a lot of people were really reacting to it like he really went out and won a legit fight, and it just didn't even look like that. It didn't look like Pereira showed up to fight at all.
I will admit that the acrobatics is fun. Like that's fun to watch. I like seeing stuff like that. It just doesn't have substance, and there's no. It's not the sport.
No.
It's cool to see, and kudos to him for having the balls to do that on this stage.
Yep.
But You're not beating the world like that.
No, he's clearly got the crazy determination. I think he's going to stick with it, but it's
how long do you think he'll stick around though?
I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to get at least 2 or 3 more fights, but whether he can win any of them, I wouldn't bet on it.
Like if he's consistently doing stuff like this.
You mean Pereira? Oh, yeah, he could get cut at any moment. If Dana White's mad enough, they'll just give him the axe.
But that's the thing, is you think the UFC's mad at that? Because they're all tweeting out his flips and everything. They didn't tweet anything that Connelly did. Connelly didn't really do anything worth tweeting out, but...
Yeah. I know Dana White hates that stuff. He hates that stuff when fighters lose. If you do that stuff and you win, you're his new favorite idol, and they will promote the hell out of you. If you do that stuff and you lose, he's threatened to cut Anderson Silva over that, you know?
Yeah.
And like Anderson Silva was actually really, really, really good behind it.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to see him in like some celebrity MMA or something.
Yeah, I don't know. For that middleweight bout, Uriah Hall, Antonio Carlos Jr., and I know I know it's not prime time highlight Uriah Hall, and I know he got taken down and he got out grappled for large portions of the fight, which was just always going to happen against Antonio Carlos Jr. But this might be like the most consistently composed Hall has ever looked in a win, where he just, every time he got a chance to hurt Carlos Jr. on the feet, he took it. He didn't wait around. He didn't let the fight get away from him. He didn't do anything. He didn't just like let Carlos Jr. just swarm him and overtake him. He pumped his jab the whole time, landed crosses, and just kind of kept to a tight kickboxing game.
Yeah, and he was pulling the trigger. I think that was the big thing. He was just willing to pull the trigger. And he stayed so composed and safe when he was on the ground.
Yeah.
I think it also helped that he shattered Shoeface's nose from Jump Street. Yeah, it's like fight starts, bam, there goes your nose. Now let's see how you breathe for the rest of this match.
That's kind of the credit to pulling the trigger so fast and like being composed and being consistent, is because, we saw Hall drop like 2.5 rounds to Bevan Lewis before he started pulling the trigger like that.
Yeah.
To just come out against Carlos Jr. and just be like, no, putting the jab out there, throwing the cross behind it, doing my work the moment I get an opportunity. He looked good. Yeah,
it's like it's almost as if he respects guys too much, but that just wasn't there for Shoeface.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't, and maybe it's because they're friends. I don't know. Like he knows him so well that he just knows he can't see him on the feet.
Yeah. Hall has such a weird, he's such a weird fighter to watch for the mental games that you feel like you're watching go on in his own head.
Yeah.
That he really could be one of the few fighters who actually just fights better against people he knows and likes.
Honestly, like if I'm sparring, I would much rather spar people I'm cool with and I'm friends with. Like I would much rather go to war with those guys than someone I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a comfort thing.
Yeah. Whatever it was, he looked great. Won a good decision. I know Carlos Jr. got a card from a judge, but I was pretty happy to see Hall get it. And the judges most of the night, other than the Connelly Pereira fight, awarded damage over position or activity.
Yeah.
But this was a great example of that, and I'm glad to see Hall get the win there. And he's just one of those fighters that middleweight, like I said, middleweight is a great place to be a weird dude with a weird game. And
Hall was so shocked when he won.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't believe it. He was more surprised than anybody.
Definitely.
And that blew my mind because he was the one that did all the damage.
Yep. And he's the kind of fighter too that you could stick him in there with like Kelvin Gastelum again tomorrow. I know Kelvin Gastelum's fighting Darren Till, but you could stick him in there with a top fighter and he's always got a shot. And at the same time, you could stick him in there with like, Marvin Vettori or something and be like, well, Vettori might beat him.
Yeah, he's not trustworthy. What is Eugene Robinson? What does he call him? Geeks, guys I can't trust.
Guy I can't trust.
That's him. Yep. Speaking of, he should probably run it back with Derek Brunson.
Yeah, that might be worth seeing.
What better time than now?
That brings us to a light heavyweight bout. Mischa Cirkunov, Jimmy Crute, and I cannot think of many fights. Like, I've seen fighters on the verge of getting knocked out because they got hit really hard and they're on skates and they find that magic huge Hail Mary punch to knock their opponent out instead.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen, but I cannot think of a time where I've seen a fighter who looked so close to like tapping to strikes or just being like not moving and letting the ref step in and then get the win immediately afterward.
Yeah, I call that the Nogueira. Nogueira was known for that back in Pride. He would get rocked, his opponent would follow him to the ground, and then he'd like pull out a submission. And who's that? There's a light heavyweight doing that now. Who's the Scottish guy?
Yeah, Paul Craig.
Yeah, that's like his MO.
Paul Craig will get beat for like 4 rounds, and then here's that last second triangle to win the fight.
Yeah.
But Cirkunov, like this wasn't like here's a bad moment, and he's getting beat up all fight, and then he found that miracle submission. It's just like, no, he looks like, he's turtled up, he's got his hands over his head, his eyes were closed, and it just looks like this is a person about to quit out of this fight. And then he like grabs the leg, hits the sweep, right into a Peruvian necktie. There's the sub. It's just like, how in the hell did you find it in yourself to do that right there? Because it did not look like 2 seconds ago you could have done that.
Talk about muscle memory.
Yeah.
My dude was on autopilot for all of that, and he hit one of the most wicked Peruvian neckties I've ever seen. Like, he had the mouth and nose covered also. Like, he was cupping the breathing way on top of choking him. It was a blood and a wind choke.
Yep.
That's gnarly.
It was.
And he wasn't even like, he didn't even have his wits about him when he was doing it.
Yeah.
Man, repetition is the mother of all skill. That dude, he can grapple, and he needs to stay grappling.
He really can. And it's just, it was a wild fight because it looked, immediately he came out, he got the takedown on Crute, put him right on the ground, got to an advanced position, then got swept. And that's when he just started getting beat up, and Crute started to out-muscle him and stuff his shots and pick him off, and then was hammering away on him on the ground, and just, And to get that kind of rare of a sub, too, it's...
Yeah.
It's not just like a triangle or a guillotine or something like that, but to like, it's like getting rocked and landing a go-go plata or something.
Well, Nick Diaz did that once upon a time.
True.
Gomi out in Pride.
Yeah.
But again, muscle memory. Jiu-jitsu is ingrained in the Diaz brothers. It was very interesting because it's like very Mischa Cirkunov.
Yeah.
Like, you can definitely get him out of there. You can hit him and put him away. But he's wickedly dangerous with his submissions.
Yep.
And this was like, this is all of Cirkunov in just, this is the definition of Cirkunov.
Solid win for him.
It was definitely good to see him come back from the brink of defeat like that.
Yeah, keeps him right in the mix in the top 15, somewhere in there. Kind of, I think, very much probably a regular gatekeeper for the elite. I was talking about Alexander Rakic earlier. He could fight somebody like Cirkunov, or, even we were talking about Shogun. It'd be interesting to see him fight Cirkunov, just because Cirkunov is so hurtable, and yet Shogun is so old.
Yeah, he called out Corey Anderson, though, which I thought was a weird...
He really sounded really unhappy about that call out, though. He was just like, I could call out... Corey Anderson called me out. I don't know. I could fight him, I guess, if I have to.
He's fighting Johnny Walker, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's like, maybe he's subtly saying that Anderson's going to lose to Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
And then they can run it back.
I don't think fighters actually pay that much attention to who's booked against who. So probably partially why you don't see more call outs is because fighters just don't really know. Like, they're not looking at the UFC schedule. They're not being like, oh, no, yeah, this guy in my division, he's fighting this guy, and this guy's fighting this guy. It's sort of like, I don't know, who do I remember in the top 10? Ben Rothwell. Want to fight Ben Rothwell, you know?
But like I said about Teixeira, I'm cool if they run that back.
Sure. Heavyweight bout before that, Augusto Sakai, Marcin Tybura, and a fantastic statement win for Sakai in a fight that looked on paper like it was booked to just suck all the fun out of the room.
Yeah, this was downright scary.
Yeah.
He stormed Tybura's castle with so much fury and confidence. Like, he just came ready to throw down.
Yeah.
And just, oh, man. Tybura didn't stand a chance. Like, he didn't have a single second of that fight. He didn't even have a chance to have a second. It was like ding, 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 and he's just getting snuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm just glad there was a referee there.
No kidding.
That was vicious. That was so vicious. The dirty boxing was incredible. He was coming in with the uppercuts, and he switched it to the overhand, and then Tybura just slumped against the cage, and he's still hitting him, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this needs to stop. Wow.
How long
is Sakai for real?
I mean, he's big and he's tough and he's got some decently sharp hands and
he's young, right?
Yeah, like he's one of those heavyweight dudes that's slowly fighting their way into shape, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there might be a pretty decent fighter under there. It's kind of always hard to tell where that exactly ends up. He doesn't really have a wrestling game or a kicking game to speak of that much, so it's
no one really
all
has
about
a wrestling game outside of Curtis Blades and DC and Stipe.
Yeah. So I mean, and yeah, it's not like those are major problems. It's just kind of all about like how sharp does his boxing get, you know? And because it's not like JDS has had a really varied kicking game or wrestling game or anything like that. He's mostly just been a boxer.
Yeah, JDS is definitely a boxer with like fluky wheel kicks that knock out Mark Hunt.
Yeah, I mean he's got JDS his addition of a kicking game was like the weirdest kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Never just like, oh yeah, no, try a calf kick and maybe the occasional body kick. It's like no, only spinning kicks.
Well, I mean, look at Derek Lewis. Look at Francis Ngannou. These are all one-dimensional fighters.
So I think, there's a very real chance that Sakai just being tough and having some sharp hands, that can carry him up that division.
Why is Cain Velasquez in the rankings?
Because he had one fight.
He's number 8 in the world?
He used to be a champ, and he came back long enough just so everybody could remember his name and be like, oh yeah, no, Cain Velasquez, he's still in there.
That's bananas. That's absolute bananas. But Sakai, though, he might be for real. What's Ty Tuivasa doing?
He's fighting Sergey Spivak, of all people, on the upcoming card in Australia. But if Tuivasa wins that fight, man, Tuivasa versus Sakai is absolutely where it's at.
Yeah, two just youthful guys looking to bang it out.
Two former fat guys turning themselves into actually muscly heavyweights who are just going to swang it out.
That's great. And that's another thing is, the toughness of Sakai.
Yeah.
Like he seems pretty durable, and that really counts for a lot.
Oh yeah, you got to.
It's so crazy because he went from this draw with Dan Charles to the split to Czech Congo, and then all of a sudden he's just murking people, and then is he for real? I'm like, I got my eye on this guy.
Like, toughness is the skill at heavyweight. If you're going to be a heavyweight, you got to be tough. It all starts with that. And if you're tough enough, you hang around, you can do a lot in that division.
Tough break for Tybura, though.
Yeah.
toughness is just not on his side.
No, the more he's trying to scrap it up and the more active he's trying to be and the more he's trying to score points and win fights, the more he's getting opened up to hard shots. And now for a dude who, never got knocked out in the first 6-7 years of his career, he's now been knocked out 3 times in the past 2.
Yeah, it was like once he won by head kick, all of a sudden he thought he was a striker. And then, nope.
No.
He's been getting melted. Man, this was really bad, though. Not even a minute.
Yes, this was just a shit kicking right from the get-go. That brings us to a bantamweight bout. Miles Johns, Cole Smith, and kind of a terrible fight.
Yeah, it was. It was boring.
Smith just came out and tried everything he could to just hold Johns against the cage and lean on him and create no space at all. And then after halfway through the second round, the moment he gave Johns any space at all, Johns just started plugging him with shots over and over and over again. So
yeah, this is when the wet blanket doesn't work.
Yep.
You have someone who is all grapple with no strikes versus someone who was at least throwing strikes when he could. And I'm glad I'm glad that the judges went that way. Like you were talking about earlier, award the damage.
Yep. Award the damage. Johns was clearly doing the damage. Smith was trying to throw a little volume in there, but mostly just trying to hold this thing down. And yeah, that's the thing for Smith too, is he kind of got, he came off a regional scene where I think a lot of people feel like he was a striker on that regional scene. And now in the UFC, he's just kind of huge, and he got a good win in his debut over
Mitch Gagnon.
What?
Mitch Gagnon?
Yeah, over Mitch Gagnon, and it kind of created a false sense that he had this whole skill base to work with, and now against Johns, it's just kind of like, well, being big is really kind of the core of your game, isn't it?
And Mitch was on his way out too.
Yeah. It was Mitch Gagnon returning after like 3 years on the bench.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like I understand the game plan of just really trying to hunt for the submission, but man, you have to sprinkle strikes along the way. Like you have to land meaningful offense in case you don't get that submission.
And I mean, was he even really trying to hunt this? Oh yeah, he took the back standing a couple times.
Yeah, that whole first round, he was actively working for the choke.
It's true.
The submission defense of Johns was just on point.
Yep.
He knew how to defend. And then when he had his moments in open space, he was doing damage.
Yep.
So I think Smith was a little disappointed by the decision, but I mean, he can't really fault anybody but himself.
Yeah.
Like you have to strike. This is fighting.
Yep.
If he doesn't, if he's upset, go do some submission underground.
Yeah. There are plenty of competitions out there these days that will reward the person who only wants to do submission grappling.
Yeah. You got to strike.
Before that, also in the bantamweight division, Hunter Azure beat Brad Katona, and rough outing for the tough winner. He's just not kind of, after a good debut in the UFC, he's really kind of struggled to find his footing. And it seems to be that, this was a weird one because Katona, it was in his first 2 fights, it was all him getting out wrestled at bantamweight.
Mm-hmm.
And now suddenly he came out, and this is like out of SBG Ireland, he comes out with a pure wrestling game plan. And it did not do him any favors. Nope.
Especially because Azure can wrestle his bum off.
Yeah.
Like what did they say? A 4-time state champion wrestler?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just the wrong. Well, it's not even that it was the wrong game plan because like Katona could not match that firepower on the feet.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The power discrepancy was just so evident that he had no choice but to grapple. So it was really just a bad stylistic matchup for him. Or maybe Gaetano just might not be that good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get outpowered, bantamweight is one of those divisions where it's only 135 pounds. You'd think, power doesn't matter that much, but it's kind of a division full of killers. It's like all the flyweights that can really crack fight at bantamweight, you know?
And that's the thing, is like the fight before this, the Johns versus Smith. Like, they were both undefeated prospects, quote unquote prospects, but honestly, like, I wasn't impressed by either of them.
No.
Nor in this. Like, neither one of these, I feel like, can compete at the top of bantamweight.
No.
Like, at this point. And, like, I don't even, like, not even, like, I'm not even hopeful about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's, on paper, they're prospects, but honestly, I'm not keeping my eye on any of these guys.
Yeah, these were not the kind of performances that are eye-openers, that are really like, oh, you got to watch out for this guy. Because bantamweight division 2 not only is a division where, like, there's a lot of guys with power, but there are also a ton of really, really hot prospects in that division right now. You got, like, you know, Said Nurmagomedov, Sean O'Malley, Nathaniel Wood, Hani Barcelos.
Like, these guys are rounded. They're rounded, very well rounded. The guys we saw tonight, I mean, not very dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, they had so Azure, like, yeah, he won the fight, but, you know, his striking wasn't phenomenal. He was just more powerful with the punches he was throwing. It's not like he had this crazy awesome strike selection, or he's, you know, setting these awesome traps, or, you know, hitting these slick counters. None of that. Yeah. He was just landing powerful punches.
Which, at least having the power is a good base to build on and get more technical if you can. You know, it sounds like he's been working with a camp he likes that's trying to add some layers to his boxing. But yeah, at the moment, it's hard when you get to the UFC with that much building to do, because there are a lot of dudes who are just right in your same position who already have more technique. You know, somebody like who was I just thinking of? Somebody like Corey Sandhagen or Peter Yan, like, they don't have infinitely more experience than somebody like Hunter Azure.
But they're infinitely better.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, skill-wise.
Yeah, and that's why they've charged up the rankings incredibly fast. It's just, it's going to be a tough division for young fighters to stand out, because they've brought in so much really good talent that the people standing out are doing so in a hurry.
And it's only going to get harder from here.
Yeah.
And I don't even mean to be down on these guys. Like, great wins, good job.
Yeah.
But, like, if you zoom out and look at the big picture, like, how good are these guys compared to the rest of the division? And the answer is not very good.
Yeah, we'll give them time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Before that, featherweight Chaz Skelly beat Jordan Griffin. This fight was a ton of fun.
Yes.
Everything you could hope for. Just all grappling scrambles all the time. Skelly barely getting the better of Griffin in the continuous scramble. And super fun fight.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely love this. Scrambles were back and forth. We had 2 front flip escapes. Well, one was an escape, one was an attempt. I think, you know, Griffin came out hot, throwing all sorts of strikes, and Skelly used that aggression to shoot in and take the back. And he worked so hard for a rear naked choke to the point where he, like, rolled into the guard of Griffin while still having the choke. I don't even know how it's physically possible.
I almost thought of, like, did he actually just, like, twist his head around? Is this man gonna die? And no, he just didn't have the choke, but was just still squeezing the hell out of it.
I'm surprised he didn't burn his arms out doing that.
I think he did. I mean, I think that's why the fight ended up being as close as it was the rest of the way. It's just because Skelly was absolutely exhausted, and it was only that in the second half of round 2, he was able to get... was it sweep or take Jordan down? I can't remember now which it was, but he got on Jordan's back for the second half of round 2 and was just kind of able to hold him and stay there and backpack him and slow the fight down.
Griffin had his back. Skelly did that front flip and then escaped back.
Yeah, he front flipped and took Griffin's back, and he got his back for the rest of the round, and it was just enough to tire Griffin out to the point that he was as tired as Skelly for round 3. But I think Skelly absolutely exhausted himself in the first.
What was crazy for me is it seemed that Griffin was doing really well on the feet, and he was just so willing to grapple with Skelly.
Yeah.
It just seems like a tactical error that cost him the fight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, for a guy like him, he's a fighter who's used to winning when he can do everything, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just I'm going to go out there and I'm going to land the better strikes and I'm going to be the slick striker. It's I'm going to go out there, I'm going to throw a few strikes, I'm going to land some good strikes. All right, I'm going to shoot in, I'm going to hit a takedown, I'm going to get on top, I'm going to work you over, I'm going to out-scramble you in the grappling positions. And, you know, if you're used to doing everything, you just do everything.
Yeah, like in the second round, he came out and he shot in on Skelly, and I'm like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you going to give him the fight he wants? But then he got the takedown and moved to side control, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute now. Maybe he sees that Skelly's tired and knows what he's doing here. But then he kept losing position, and they kept scrambling, and whenever it was on the feet, he was doing the better work.
Sure.
It just seemed like he should have just stayed on his feet, and maybe I don't know. I don't know what his corner was telling him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a confidence thing. If you're not if you don't view yourself as this super polished, confident striker, you don't stick with it, you know? Yeah.
But it was fun. It was definitely a fun fight. And I mean, Skelly was throwing from the hip, throwing heat.
Oh, yeah.
So wildly chucking. And that's what you got to be careful of. There's guys who are just throw anything, the unpredictable ones, the ones that it's like, I'm going to throw whatever because I don't care if you want to try and take me down because I want to grapple anyways.
Skelly's got that sky guy striking.
Dangerous strikers.
Skelly strikes like the wacky inflatable tube man out in front of the car dealership.
Exactly. This should have won fight of the night, by the way.
It should have, actually, honestly. I'm fine with Connelly getting all the money, but this should have won fight of the night, really.
For sure. This was the most competitive, fun, back and forth fight.
Before that, Louis Smolka, another bantamweight bout. Ryan Mcdonald, and I just feel for Ryan Mcdonald, man. I do. Down to my core, because he's a dude who, he came up through the regionals with a 10-0 perfect record, and it just seemed like he just got all the right opponents on the way to not expose the huge defensive gaps in his game. And then he got lit up in his last fight by Gutierrez, was it?
Mm-hmm. Chris Gutierrez.
And he talked about, I learned all the right lessons. I went back. I trained with, I think they said he was training with Chris Carriasso, learning the defensive holes in his game and trying some new things. And then he goes out and it's just the holes are still too big. Louis Smolka just went out and put a boxing clinic on them.
Who knew Smolka could punch? He came out, he was doing body work early and then went upstairs with the power, the left hook, the right hook. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough to come back from.
It's a great win for Smolka. Most confident he's looked in the pocket in a long time. Have not seen him look that confident in his striking in forever. But also just McDonald, man, you're getting run out of the UFC at this pace.
Well, they can put him up against a Bracketona or Cole Smith.
Yeah, there you go.
Loser leaves town kind of thing.
I mean, they'll let him hang around. They let most everybody hang around for 3 or 4 or 5 fights anymore, but it may be a hard hanging around while collecting decent mid-sized, bigger paychecks than you get regionally, basically. Yeah,
live out the dream.
Yep.
But good on Smolka, 2-1 since making his return.
Yeah.
Showing new tools.
Definitely.
He's got some power, which you got to have in this division now.
Yep. It's still going to be tough for him at 135, I think, but
Oh, for sure. He's still small.
But this showed the right amount of dedication to just like being gritty and throwing down with people and getting into the pocket and making fights hard and, you know, doing things like body work, which a lot of fighters still just don't do.
Yeah, great body work. And right away.
Yeah.
Like, that's the game plan. I'm attacking your body, and hopefully it opens up the head. And it worked.
To open the fight, Austin Hubbard beat Kyle Propolek, came back from a bad first round, got dropped, seemed like he was getting clipped up, then figured out that Propolek couldn't really couldn't stuff a chain to take down if he started in on the single and then chained from there and turned the fight around off it.
Yeah, excellent mid-fight adjustment.
Yep.
He's coachable. He's smart. You know, credit to him. He did what he had to do. Overcome the early adversity and find a way to get the win.
Yeah. He wasn't happy about it, but, you know, I think DC was right. Like, man, you don't have anything to be unhappy about. If you were clearly losing a fight and you find a way to adjust and get that win, like, that's all good on you.
But I think that's just a testament to his how strong he is mentally, that he has he has like this idea of what he should be fighting like, and if it doesn't match that, then, you know, it'll show. Like he's real. It seems like he's real honest with himself. Like, he seems like a real cerebral fighter.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that he can even make mid-fight adjustments is excellent, all on its own, and like stick to that. You know.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't want to say I like when fighters are down on themselves, but I like his realistic approach to it, and not just satisfied to be there, not just satisfied with the win.
Well, and honestly, it's always just kind of a good sign when people are never too proud of their own work. Like, that's what drives people.
Yeah.
Just to always be a little bit like, I really can do that better, no matter what it is. You know, you paint 15 chapters, you're like, yeah, but my line work is kind of shitty over there.
And it's important in a sport where you have to have this delusion of grandeur. You have to have this overconfidence in your abilities.
Yeah.
So to have humility to counterbalance that, I think, is important. And we get that when Conor McGregor loses, and that seems to be the only time we get it out of him now. But it's very important, I think, to have. So that's probably what impressed me the most with Hubbard, was his ability to make the adjustments, and like the fact that he's just so realistic with himself and expects a lot out of himself.
Yeah.
And he's not just happy to be there.
All right, let's bring it all back up to the main event real quick, just to wrap things up. And once again, Justin Gaethje setting himself up there as, you know, among the top contenders of guys that you want to see get the title shot within the next 6 months.
Well, let me ask you this, Zane. Would you rather see him fight McGregor, or would you rather see him fight Ferguson?
Well, I got to go with the Justin Gaethje answer. I'd rather see him fight somebody that fights, you know? Like, I'll get excited about or entertain the idea of a Conor McGregor fight as a fan when I actually see Conor McGregor walking to the ring.
But, like, just let's say, hypothetically, the ink is signed. It's dry. Conor will fight him. Which fight would you rather see? I
mean, I don't know. Like, that's
you want to say Conor McGregor, and I know you do, because I do.
Yeah, like all the drama is around watching Conor McGregor fight. It still is. He's still that big a celebrity. He's still that big a star. He's a fast starter. He's got a great pressure counter game that he starts right from the opening minute, and he has a great ability to hurt people early. He's always a thrill to watch for that, because
it's two knockout artists going at it. Like, what's not to love about that?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I actually technically enjoy watching Tony Ferguson perform over the whole course of a fight more, because Ferguson is much more composed, is much more just like wildly high pressure, throwing everything and anything at all times. He has these he doesn't start slow, but he's never really got his timing down early, so he always walks into a bunch of big shots and then has to kind of figure out how to make his high aggression offense work from there. And by the end of a Tony Ferguson fight, I'm always just like, holy crap, that was really cool.
Yeah, and he's dangerous everywhere.
Yeah. Whereas a Conor McGregor fight, like, all the thrill, all the drama is there in the build-up, and it's there in the first round. But after that, like, Conor McGregor fights, like his fights with Nate Diaz, they were good. They were great fights, but they weren't like these amazing all-terrain examples of deep technical skill everywhere. You know? They were these... Like,
I think their first fight was because of Nate Diaz.
Yeah, because of Nate Diaz, but
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, you know, so I mean the technical, but like just the two guys just trying to punch each other until one falls down will always be fun to me, and I think always more fun to me than any other stylistic matchup.
Yeah, let me put it this way, I guess. I'm much more intrigued by rounds 2 through 5 of Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje, but I'm much more intrigued by round 1 of Conor McGregor versus Justin Gaethje.
I respect that. I respect that.
Like, that's my real answer, you know?
Well, do you think that since, you know, there's not even a fight booked between Khabib and Ferguson, I mean, do you think Gaethje should take a fight before that? Or do you think he should wait?
I mean, he should wait until he figures out if it's going to get booked or not. Like, wait a couple months to see if it gets booked. And if it doesn't, then just try to make as much money as you can, you know?
I mean, that Conor fight is the red panty night.
It may be. I mean, without a belt around your waist, I don't know how well Gaethje can actually renegotiate. Conor would have to want to fight him enough to force the UFC to go to the table with him. Anyway, because if they don't, you know, if Conor doesn't care and he's just going to take any fight, then you can't really be like, oh, well, you have to pay me this much to fight with Conor McGregor, because UFC can just turn around and be like, oh, yeah, well, you know, Dustin Poirier says he'll do it for half that. So,
yeah, we'll see. Curious to see how it's all going to play out.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to wrap things up. You can find me on Twitter at Zane Simon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at Eddie Mercado. You can find both of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give us a like and subscribe to our podcast feed, Bloody Elbow Presents, over on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, all that good stuff. And while you're there, check out the Mookie Cookie Show, the Level Change Podcast, Pull No Punches, the MMA Vivisection, all our other shows we do week in and week out. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back for UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Stevens in Mexico City next week. See you then.